Sage Forsaken here. Today I am showing you the custom heads that I'm making with my casting materials that are made to use the older core bodies like the Rucker body. The reason I picked this head style to make is that with the 3-pack, when I'm going to be army building shrapnel, I'll be getting a lot of Ruckers and a lot of Reapers. So I wanted to make a head that would go on that body without looking too strange. So as you can see here, I cut the head off right below the mask, and then I attached it to the neck peg for Rucker. What I did is drill a small hole in there and ran a nail up in the middle, and then I glued the two together just to make sure that it was not only held together with the nail but also with the glue. The nail is to give it a little extra support so it can't shift. Now, as you can see here, there was an edge overhang, whatever you want to call it, from the hood because basically where it wasn't really sculpted to go on a neck peg. This means that it wouldn't fit on the Rucker body properly because the Rucker body has its own separate hoodies sculpted into the top of the body. Now, this isn't necessarily a problem because I've actually seen where people have overcoats that have a hood, but they wear a hoodie under it. So I'm not saying it would look bad that way, but it is a problem because to be able to get it to free turn, I had to Dremel down the edges of the head part from the Reaper head. Now, this actually was what I did first with the Dremel, and here's after I did that, I sculpted some small detail, giving the hood under the mask, putting the hood under the mask so that basically it did have a little bit more detail. If you don't sculpt, you could still make this modification with your Reaper head, without having to do that if you had the Dremel. Now you can see the finished product here. What I would do if this were the head I was going to use, which I might very well do, because it is very hard to paint that good of a paint job on a Reaper head like that. But if I were going to use this as a final product here, instead of as the butt for my casting, basically what I would do is just paint the neck peg to be the same gray as the hood, or paint them both the hood and the neck peg a different color to match the figure body, like make it a green or something like that. Anyway, you can see here that it does fit in there, and you can turn the head a little bit. I also made a gas mask head, and with this gas mask head, I ran into two issues. The peg holding that big nodule on the side of the head was very thin, and would basically either the nodule would snap off when I'm taking it out of the mold, or there would be an air bubble in there, really bad, making it mess up the mold. My next video, we're actually going to be looking at a lot of the heads that I cast. I'm going to go through some of the really horrific looking mistakes that were made, as well as show kind of like some issues I ran into. The biggest issue is I pour the mold material right over the head like that. You can see in this picture, and that means that the place you put the casting material into the head, into the mold, is the bottom of the cup. So you can't put the mold into the cup afterwards, which at first wasn't an issue, but once I started, after I cut the heads out of there and cast the first couple of heads, one of the problems I ran into is where the cuts were, it could leak out, and eventually the mold did rip all the way in half to where I basically had to cast it with a hole in the bottom and using extra casting material because it would leak out the hole. So one of the things that would fix that, and one of the things I had to do to fix that was if I were to cast another one, I would cast it with the head hanging from some clay that was on a peg or something, but at the top of the glass, so that after I molded it, I could slide it into another cup and drop casting material down into the cup instead of, if it did have to break the mold in half ever, it would only leak a little bit around the cup edges instead of all over the place. Now, here's some of the finished product as far as without the nodules. These are the first 4 or 5 that turned out okay, but I actually made some improvements to my gas mask so I could get that nodule cast on there, and we'll be showing that too in my next video. Anyway, if you like these videos, like and subscribe, and of course, pour on the plastic. Have a great day.